For this project, I decided to talk about the concerted cultivation issues between families and households. So, what exactly is concerted cultivation? Well, it's basically the assurance of activities and experiences in a child's life based on the parent's class and style of parenting, how they grow up, what their activities involve, sports, athletics, and other miscellaneous activities also include this. Other aspects of this concept include discussions and communications with their children, such as asking how they feel about certain scenarios, their opinions on life aspirations, and all of these characteristics are important when raising a child and shape them throughout their future. But the real question to ask is, what credentials of the parents themselves influence their child's growth? It's interesting to think that one of these factors can include the parent's annual income level, which in turn can affect paying for activities for their children in the long run. Here is a report by the U.S. Department of Agriculture called Expenditures on Children by Families. Based on annual expenditures on a child by their income group, higher income families spend nearly double the amount of income on their children compared to lower and middle class families. Now, if you look closely, you can see that the lower and middle incomes are nearly similar to each other when it comes to the amount spent on children. However, higher income families have a much larger gap differential.
Parents of the lower and working class tend to focus more on putting food on the table, being able to pay their bills and other essentials, and sometimes shy away from the child's development as being a big issue in their lives. Granted, they can still care about their children, but could find it not as a requirement of good parenting. This is why social class can play a big part in shaping the daily rhythms of family life.
Education is also an important thing to think about when focusing on children's natural growth. Now, when talking about this, we mean not only education in schools, but how they are educated by their parents, such as proper etiquette, the birds and the bees talk, and the differences between right and wrong. This type of taught behavior reflects them as a growing person, how they behave around others, and what type of crowd they follow. Children can fall under many bad influences if not properly watched over by their parents, which makes it important to include children in positive activities, whether it may be in or outside of schools, and be more heavily involved in their kids' lives as a positive influence. Moreover, the concept of natural growth is just the opposite of concerted cultivation. It is most common in poor and working class families. These families are less involved with the structure of the child's lives after school activities and more commonly have less education and have time to impose values on their children that will give them an advantage in their education. According to Unequal Childhoods, Annette Lero talks about how natural growth is most common in poor and working class families, while concerted cultivation is more common in higher and middle class families. Families concentrated on natural growth tend to focus more on using their limited resources that they have to focus on the essentials for their children. It sets an assumption to the parents that their children only need housing, food, and some sort of education. These parents can also presume to be more demanding, as in telling what their child to do instead of reasoning with them. Part of the reason why they might not let their children in organized activities is because of their dangerous surrounding neighborhoods based on their income level. When looking at both sides of these concepts, you can see that early childhood experiences can be very consequential for a children's long-term social and emotional development. Children of concerted cultivation might have careful supervision and a watchful eye over, but can be subject to being treated almost like a project or a test subject. On the other hand, children in the midst of natural growth are thought to thrive naturally with more independence in their lives, but too much freedom can result in falling under bad influences. The bottom line is that there are benefits and non-benefits to both approaches, and there is no such thing as perfect parenting based on their styles, social class, or economic success. But parents should find a balance between the two to shape their children in becoming the best person they can be.